Take time to recharge. Don't neglect your health. I think might be one of the very, very few managers who will remind my team about their annual health checkups. When I get mine done, is when I remind all of them. I will also remind them about taking care of themselves, staying hydrated, eating nutritional food. And to me, that is bringing your whole self to work, which is you acknowledge the
Mm-hmm.
human being behind the person who's coming up and showing up to their jobs. Because of the life stage that some of my teammates are in, you will get that one odd call when an elderly parent is unwell and you have to drop everything and then you have to run home and take them to the
Yeah.
hospital, or you have a kid in school, the kid is sick and you're either having to work from home or taken off. The way we try to build around that is we try to create a structure with a lot of tag teaming. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
one person who's a bottleneck
Mm.
when something happens. And I
Yeah.
think that it is important for businesses to be ready with these kind of contingency plans, and those contingency plans, at least I build in very, very deliberately.
Welcome to the show. Here, I speak with experts and experts at life in heartfelt conversations designed to help us pause, choose intentionality over hustle, and discover joy, meaning, and connection in our everyday lives. So, if you were to describe yourself to somebody you met for the first time, what would you say?
Yeah, that's a very good question because I normally would lead with my name and what I do, but I have been thinking about alternative ways of introducing myself. So I think I would like to say that I've lived a very, very interesting life. I've been exposed to different cultures because my parents come from different cultural backgrounds and different languages. I understand five languages really well. I can speak most of it, a little, some a little haltingly. I know how to read and write three different languages, and I think that the biggest advantage of having a background like that has been the ability to be able to appreciate different points of views, tolerant to different perspectives that don't align with mine. I've also been the elder child, so I've been, very, very responsible from when I was very young. I'm a mother to a 12-year-old who's just getting more and more precocious every year, and I'm still trying to keep up and catch up. I live in a multi generational setup, which I deeply appreciate and would not trade for anything. At the heart of it, I think I'm a very simple person. I like family and I enjoy being with friends. Hard to believe, but I am a little bit of an introvert, but I lead with my extrovert side, and I like the color green.
Oh, that is so nice that you have such a refreshing, different way of thinking about yourself. When I think I would introduce myself, I sometimes think I would lead with I'm currently unemployed, which I don't think is a great way of, or even that I am a depression patient and I've been seeking therapy, and my therapist has been telling me that this is not your personality. Can you please get over it and not
Exactly. And
start defining yourself by this?
absolutely. It got me thinking because, as a thought exercise, I read somewhere that if you had to take what you do for a living out of your introduction, what would your introduction sound like? And this is the first time I'm practicing it. The reason I think is because it's such a big part of our life. In our generation, we've been raised to have ambition, to have career very front and center. It has shaped everything from the educational choices we've made to the job opportunities early on, to trainings that we've done, to sometimes even friends we have and people we've married. That to take that away as part of your identity and then think about who you are can almost seem frightening at some level. And
Yeah.
so I was just practicing. I mean, if I have to keep my work completely out of an introduction, I'm still a human being and I should be able to put together a few sentences about myself.
Yeah.
Still not a perfect answer. I think I'm getting there, but it's a start.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that you're talking about perfection, oh God, I hate that word. I have started to realize that so much of what I do or have chosen to stay away from, I think at a subconscious level, has been about, can I do this perfectly? And if I can't, then I don't even try. So I'm sitting on the bed and I'm saying, these are the two things which I think I can already do perfectly, and that's all I will do, and everything else I won't touch. And I think that's a horrible way to live because you basically,
I don't know about it being a horrible way to live, but I do think that it is a limiting way to live. And I think you
yeah,
deny yourself a lot of experiences. it is a self defense mechanism as well. At some level, you want to
Absolutely.
protect yourself, one of course from failure, one from rejection, one
Yeah.
from feeling extremely uncomfortable when you try something for the very first time.
Yeah.
But I do agree that in the long stretch of life that we have, to live like that can be denying yourself of
Yeah.
so many experiences, meeting so many people, learning something new about yourself. I'll give an example which links to career choices. I
Mm-hmm.
always thought of myself as a behind the scenes person. So, some sort of a strategy, thinking roles, revenue management roles, etc. Till about 10 years back, when, because of a career decision, I was thrust into sales, is the best way I can
Mm-hmm.
put it. And up until then, I had subconsciously eliminated sales as a career choice because a there is so much unpleasantness associated with that word needlessly. Everyone
Yeah.
tries to think about someone trying to cheat somebody out of something, which is not what sales is at all. And the
Mm-hmm.
second is, the second impression memories that we carry is of people coming to your house, knocking on the doorstep, trying to sell you something you don't need, and then you having to say no, and the entire experience being very cringy, very awkward.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole idea of rejection, and oh my god, I couldn't, pick myself up again and do it, which is also not true. And I feel
Mm.
if I had not been thrust into this position where the job that I have signed up for now is sales, I don't think I would have realized how much I enjoy it. So much so that I think it to be one of the more noble professions, for the simple reason that you're exchanging value. There is no one trying to palm off something that is suboptimal, and it could also be due to what we are selling. It's enterprise sales, and it's something else. You're saying, hey, for this much money, this is the value that you're going to get. And I feel like
Mm.
very few professions are that deliberate and that honest. So I have a lot of respect for it, and I don't think, in fact, often I wonder, why did I not choose it more deliberately? Why did I not think about sales as a career? And the
Yeah.
reality is that it was such a subconscious rejection that it didn't even feature in a conscious decision making process. And therefore, I'm better off for having chosen it. And I wish I had done it sooner, and I had done it longer.
How important do you think it is to sort of land at something which fits your groove, something which is in sync with maybe what your innate strengths are? A, how important is it? B, how do you get to it? C, when you got to it, how do you realize, oh, this seems like I have a thing for this and maybe I can do well?
So it starts with self awareness, and we are at different stages in different points in time, both personally as well as professionally, at different levels of maturity. So sometimes we think we're very self aware, we might not be. There are always blind spots. And
Yeah.
to this end, I think there are two, three things to regularly keep reflecting on and checking on with yourself. And the more you have it as part of a process or as part of a system, I think it just helps. So having coaches, having what they call, like a board of directors, people who care about you, people who are going to give you solid advice because they mean well and they want you to grow and thrive, that's very essential. So
Mm-hmm.
when we are growing up, our parents, our siblings, our closest circle of friends, our teachers are the ones who give you that sense of self awareness. And
Mm-hmm.
for some of us who are lucky enough to start journaling is a great way to reflect on what went well, what didn't go well, come to terms with your feelings about certain things. And we talk so much about the logic of things, the rationality of things, that we forget that the biggest signals that we get are rooted in how we feel. When you do something, if it fills you with this sense of energy, with the sense of optimism, with the spirit of wanting to do more, clearly that is aligning with an area of strength or a sense of purpose, and you should pursue that. Versus certain activities or even certain projects, you'll find yourself being drained by it. I'm not saying, just give up on things that don't resonate with you, but there is an element of a stretch which feels healthy. So you are
Mm-hmm.
not comfortable, certainly not comfortable, but you are ready to put up with that feeling of discomfort. You want to put
Mm-hmm.
up with that feeling of discomfort. That is your inner navigational system. And
Mm-hmm.
I measure it. I've learned to give it importance. Earlier I would miss it as I'm just picking things that are easy and that are not challenging enough, etc. It takes time to understand that fine balance between something that is challenging but good for you and is something that you're going to enjoy doing, versus challenging and negative. You're kind of,
Mm-hmm.
you're losing energy as you try to do it.
Yeah.
People reflecting on a regular basis, learning to trust your gut, developing that sense of inner compass that guides you. I think these are some of the ingredients. Books help. So in the same realm of coach, it could be a book, it could be an inspirational video, it could be something that makes you go aha, like I didn't think about this in a new way. And what we said before we got to this question, which is just exposing yourself to new experiences and seeing how that makes you feel. Is this something that you would like to pursue? Is this something that, may it didn't make sense, drop
Mm.
it off? What are your ways to systematize that? How often do
Mm-hmm.
you journal? How often do you
Mm-hmm.
seek out a coach? How often do you seek feedback from people who are working with you? For me, another signal that I've learned is when I have not heard anything about me, either directly or indirectly as a feedback, I feel like there is a little bit of a silence. So then
Mm-hmm.
I want to block off time with at work, it could be with my key stakeholders. At home, I've learned that we treated our family like we do our stakeholders, we would learn a lot. So there was a time, I think about 3 4 years back, when I wrote actual OKRs with respect to what I want to do with my daughter, how I want to approach the relationship with my husband. And so therefore seeking feedback from them from time to time, even if they roll their eyes and whatever, is a great way to keep a self check on. The other day my daughter looked at me and she said, you look much better. And I said, what do you mean look better? And she said, your face goes like this. Or she made a face and she said, when you're stressed or you're underslept or you're anxious or you're angry about something, your face just crunches up, and there's a look about it, and it looks like you're relaxed. And this was right in the middle of the Diwali festivities or something, and we had gone to a pool together. And I was actually feeling very light, that felt very relaxed at the core. I felt relaxed, and that was feedback. And that's great feedback, that's spontaneous feedback that you're getting, and therefore you're doing something right. When your body starts to scream, that nagging pain or sluggishness and things like that. So you just have to tune in very mindfully and pick up on these signals and make time to reflect and have a process around that.
But a lot of people, I don't think, give the same amount of structure to family life as they would to work, right? This bit of OKRs, I can imagine your 12-year-old rolling her eyes for sure. But I do think that whatever system one might adopt, that intentionality is so important, because if sometimes it's just in the flow of life, you might not realize how much time is being lost and what direction you need to sort of push yourself toward. And I love the fact that you're talking about feelings and listening to your gut, because again with work there are so many external markers, right? When which organization should one work for, what looks cool, whether a particular designation seems awesome enough, what's the pay, and of course these are important things. I've heard anyone speak like this about how you're feeling from the inside, and that's so important in being able to figure a long term fix. In your mind, what have you seen has been a good way to evaluate whether an organization is a good fit for you? Is
I think that it starts with knowing, again, a bit of self awareness on, and being very mindful about what you bring to the table. Where would you like to go? And if it, and it again, it evolves a lot from when you start to where you are after 10 years, after 20 years, after 30 years. Initially, it is probably shaped by the academic decisions that you made. Now, that's the
mm-hmm,
first level. After that, let's say you trained and get qualified for a certain job, or through, in our generation, you've now graduated, you join a certain sector. Initially it is about just, hey, let me just find a job, find my footing, and
yeah.
then I will figure it from there. Once you're there, it depends on how curious you are, how you learn, who guides you in that place. So for me, when I joined the Aditya Birla Group, I joined the telco arm, which was Idea Cellular back then. And
Mm-hmm,
I had an extremely good manager, Lakshmi Narayana, and he had the perspective because he had considerably more experience than me. He would be provocative when he needed to be provocative. He used inspiration, he used guidance, he used nudges. He squarely put me out of my comfort zone across different roles, different opportunities. And I felt, many times I felt like a fish out of water, right? But the learning I had in those 3.5 years, almost like a foundation for all things on how businesses should be run. Discipline of running a publicly managed business, and therefore the responsibility on revenue, on being able to manage cost better, the PNL, integrity in everyday decision making, speed of
Mm-hmm.
getting things done, consistency. So then it
Right.
becomes more about what parts of this job do I enjoy more, and
Mm-hmm.
how can I build on that, and how can I take that forward, and having those very deliberate conversations saying, hey, I like this. Is there an opportunity to do more? I think coming back to answering your question, knowing when to say yes to any opportunity. And you said, some roles sound cool, some companies sound cool. 100% I said yes to InMobi because it sounded very cool. Flipkart was always the poster child of, oh my god, look how crazy big they went and how well they did what they did. And Google is Google, so of course you say yes to it. The role of the CEO role sounds cool to me, so I definitely am very very enamored by it. But I think what's important in any of these decisions that we make is to realize what price you're willing to pay. You might think that a CEO role is right for you, but and I read this in Indra Nooyi's book, and it made absolute sense to me because she said, CEO is a calling. It's not for everyone. You have to feel like you want to do this because it may look very glamorous, and of course you're the face of the company and it's very external facing, but it's a lot of grunt work. It's thankless, it's punishing, it's exacting. And
Mm.
when you if you go into something imagining it to be something else and you're not ready to pay the prices, it can create a lot of dissonance in a very very bad way. I have a coach who I work with. He's part of Stillwater Consulting. They do some amazing work, executive coaching, and his name is Girish Manimaran. And this concept of prices you pay is an element of honesty and clarity that he has coached me on, and I find that to be an invaluable tool as I imagine something. A simple example of this is my daughter was very young when the Google job. I actually it was an inbound request to say, hey, we're looking for a person to do this sort of a role. Would you be interested? The positions are based in Bombay. The position is based either in Bombay or in Gurgaon. And
Mm-hmm.
I sat on that ping for almost a week because my support system was here. My husband has a
Mm-hmm.
job which is in Bangalore, and I did not want to move forward with it because I'd love to have given an arm and a leg even at that time to work for Google. But the price I was going to be paying was immense personal upheaval, which I knew upfront, and I wasn't willing to pay that price. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, I again got counsel from three people who including my husband, who said, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for an inbound request to have come. Why don't you proceed with the process? We don't know whether you will get the role or not. It'll be an experience, and once you
Mm.
get the role, let's cross the bridge, and maybe you
Mm.
can say no then. So don't like
Mm.
reject yourself up front.
Mm. Mm.
And then one thing led to the other. My manager was very good. He said, why don't you take 6 months to figure things out? Then my manager changed, and the new manager who came in was extremely supportive. And he said, as long as you're able to travel, it doesn't matter, honestly, which one of the three locations you work at. So things sometimes work out. But knowing what you can do and knowing what you can't do, and therefore to the point of, what is a negotiable and what is a non negotiable, I think
Yeah.
is critical. So just having that knowledge of, oh, this company sounds great on paper, let me join it, or this role sounds great on paper, let me join it, without thoroughly evaluating pros and cons, even when it is extremely tempting,
Yeah.
is something that you need to do, which a lot of times some of us are not guilty. Like you just gloss over it because you're so excited. Oh my God, like this is the role of a lifetime, company of
Yeah.
your dreams. It can go wrong if you have not fully thought about the prices you're going to pay.
Again, I don't know how many people think actively of coaches. Here, you are mentioning one seems like he's played a significant role in your decision making. How are you trying to figure out what it is that you want, and also seeking feedback from people who you think have more experience sometimes, who know your life, who can be there for you. Sometimes in the busyness of our life, I think it's possible that you're just running and you've not developed those equations. How have you managed to figure out these systems?
In hindsight, it's easy for me to tell you that this is what has happened. But as it
Mm.
was happening, it wasn't as deliberate either. You live and you
Mm.
learn. I think journaling is something I started when I was very young. could have something to do with the fact that in general I a person who felt like I wore my emotions on my sleeve. I still do, but I'm a lot more emotionally regulated today than I was growing up. And I struggled with expression. And it used to, particularly teenage years and early 20s, it used to seem more like an unstructured outburst many times, a lot of angst. Sometimes it used to read like reporting of what happened today, what I ate today, etc. But then over a period of time, you develop that. And the moment you
Mm-hmm.
put pen to paper, a lot of those unresolved emotions just have a magical way of coming out and pouring themselves out. And it builds a lot of clarity. The moment you see your words there, you are first clear about the problem. Your brain automatically gets into the zone of, okay, how do I solve this problem? Is it solvable, etc. So I think
Mm-hmm.
that is a very early childhood coping skill that serves me well even today. I was naturally curious. So I used to read whatever I could lay my hands on, which led me to reading a lot about psychology, why people behave the way they behave, why do I feel the way I feel, how do I cope. So a lot of these are incidental. When I joined work, and I still remember this, I was 24, 25 years old. I was living in the US for a year and a half. I was just was really a fresher, maybe 2 3 years of experience. And I had a super senior manager, like the person who headed the account, and a good 20 plus years older than me. And I used to
Mm-hmm.
meet him these tea sessions once in a week, just go to his cabin, say hi, hello. He'd order a cup of tea, or we would just talk. Now, looking back, I think that was mentoring in action. I did not see it like that. I just saw it as me meeting Atanu Sarkar for a conversation. And very recently, I have, on LinkedIn, messaged him and I told him, you might not have realized how much you shaped my career after that, because I got into MBA because of that conversation. And everything from that point is because of those conversations at 3 p.m. in the afternoon once a week. And so, in that sense, it is serendipitous. But
Mm-hmm.
it stems from being curious. It stems from wanting to create rapport relationships with people, being able to respect what they say, being able to think and deliberate on it. And sometimes people will take interest in you and will want to guide you, and you have to then be able to take that guidance. So I keep
Yeah.
this advice I give my daughter as well. She says, there is somebody who doesn't draw as well as me, and my drawing teacher will say this is fine, but I know my drawing or my painting looks better than hers, and the teacher says you could do these four things. And I keep telling her, when people spot potential which is slightly above average, they're going to give you more feedback. And so
Yeah.
your ability to not say that, oh my god, this is like, why this person, I can never please this person, or this constant criticism, blah blah. It's, you're not able to realize that you have talent, or you have potential, you have that something that this person is seeing, your teacher is seeing, or cross functional stakeholder is seeing, and they are therefore nudging that in you, they are pushing you harder.
Mm-hmm.
It takes some time to not get in the state of victimhood, saying, people are not being nice to me, or pushing me
Yeah.
so hard. And it's because they see
Yeah.
potential. It's because they see you can handle potential, that you have been given extra work. It's exactly how it is in life. It's exactly how it is in corporate life as well. You do a project really well, you've set the congratulations, you've like set the benchmark. Now the next project
Yeah.
is to raise the bar, and that's how you grow. And that has been for me, Ritu, a big learning.
Mm-hmm.
To be very touchy about how I responded to feedback. And this coach, Girish, has helped me understand and respond to feedback very differently. I used to see it as criticism, I used to be defensive about it. This whole emotional regulation, being able to see feedback as a piece of information, being able to
Mm.
understand what to do with it. And sometimes, depending on the intent and the person it comes from, you might choose to not do anything about it. Funnily enough, feedback tells you a lot more about the person giving it than about yourself, and
Mm.
recognizing that helps you respond to it in a certain way. Yeah, it's a journey. I think looking back, a lot of things make sense. They may not have been as deliberate. Now I try to make time for it, so I do reach out to this coach, I reach out to my manager, my stakeholders, at least once in a year, and try and get feedback about, what do you think are a few blind spots, what am I not doing very well. I will do the same thing at home, saying, hey, what's working, what's not working, what would make you feel like I genuinely care about you, or I want to spend time with you. What's not working in that? What am I doing that could be different? So now I do it a lot more deliberately. It doesn't take as much time as we think it does. I mean, you have to schedule some time, but you are going to meet your manager and have one-on-one conversations, or with your team you're going to have one-on-one conversations. At
Mm-hmm.
home you are constantly talking to people at home, but maybe it's a simple question, and it's about remembering to do it rather than
Mm.
making time always to do it.
How often do you journal? Just out of curiosity.
Now I journal less often than I should, but I will journal at least maybe once, twice in a week for sure. But I would like to do maybe thrice a week thereabouts, because I go back and read and figure out where my head was at when I journaled last time, and what am I feeling today. So
Mm-hmm.
maintaining that continuity helps. The other thing is, I think the written word carries a lot of power, and there are times that I have just sat down and written something. Years ago I wrote something on a small piece of paper, which I then kept in a box, and it stayed with me for the longest time. And a lot of what I wrote came true. And I think that you manifest when you write. It's a deliberate act of reinforcing those neural pathways, solidifying your intent. It takes a lot of courage to put
Mm-hmm.
something down on a piece of paper. There's an exercise that I think it's called Fast Forward for Women, which Google had partnered with a few years ago. Maybe in some quarters they still partner with them, but I'd attended a workshop which I found to be very powerful, because they make you write a letter, pretty much like a reporting a journal entry, and you just describe your day or your week, but it has to be dated, let's say 2 years from now, and you have to write it in the present tense. And so whatever it is that you want to be, let's say I want to be a CEO in the next 2 years, and of a certain company doing a certain set of things, I actually write that down, saying, this morning I woke up, I'm extremely proud of myself because I went to the gym and I ate a super healthy meal, I got my protein in, I got my macros in. Then I went to work, and I had an investor conference. Or it has to look like it is your actual day. And so you
Right.
in your mind you're already a CEO. You're living a
Mm-hmm.
certain life, both personally and
Mm-hmm.
professionally, and they ask you to spell out details in as much detail as, like, clarify things in as much detail as possible about your day. And the
Mm-hmm.
funny thing is, when I attended that program, I was a member of the team that I'm today leading. And my article, my journal, my entry was about how I had already become, I was leading this team, and what were different people doing, what was I doing in my personal life. And I didn't live in the house that we moved into 3 years ago. I hadn't got the role. I had no visibility that the role would become available, and all of that has happened. And therefore, I almost feel like it's time to rerun that exercise again and plan for the next 2 to 5 years. So we can live life passively, drift along life, and you kind of are not very, you're not mindful. I just drifted till the time I finished my engineering. To be honest, it was a very emotionally traumatic relationship, for whatever trauma you can imagine at 22, 23. It's a very difficult relationship. In hindsight, I am so grateful to the person that I had such a tumultuous relationship with, because I think what happened in that course of a year woke me up from this slumber state, and from just drifting through life. And I became a little bit more deliberate about my life, and the fact that I control the narrative, that I do have some role to play in my own life, and I have to play the lead character in my own life. And so I think those are the two choices. You can live life, you can drift, and you can blame externalities and say, oh, this happened to me because of this, because of that. Or you can choose to wake up and say, hey, I own up to the failures, the not so great parts, the not so pretty parts. And
And I think a lot of these conversations are meant to get the kind of things that you're talking about out in the forefront. Thinking of other people I've spoken to a top class musician and who talks about his wife giving him feedback and how he's saying that you should watch that episode, by the way. Rebels in it because he knows it's coming from a place for growth versus this bit that you spoke about the price you pay. I was talking to another coach on the show and he's talking about trade-offs. So I think these are the conversations that I want to bring up front, saying that at the end of the day, The world is not going to stop spinning. The world is not going to care about what you do. You have to decide what it is that really matters to you, and you should have the strength to say that what I think matters, whether it looks stupid to other people or whether they can make sense of it or not, doesn't matter. When you're thinking about flourishing at work, when you're choosing people, what are you on the lookout for? There's of course the technical skill versus what I would bucket as attitude.
You rightly said functional skill set. Do you have those basic skill sets either by education or by experience? Have you done some parts of it, and are you able to learn the other parts of it? So
Mm.
able, like the ability to learn what you don't know, and curiosity I add actually as part of the key role itself. I don't bucket that into attitude, because you meet people who are very happy with where they are and what they know, and you don't see as much intellectual curiosity. You don't see that spark of wanting to learn more and putting themselves out there continuously. So knowing how to learn, intellectual curiosity I bucket under core role related knowledge. I do look for resilience. That's
Mm-hmm.
it's extremely important in today's work. Knowing how you can fall down but pick yourself up, bandage the bruises, and then sort of run with it again is
Mm-hmm.
a hallmark requirement for any professional in any field. Because, as you said, no one's coming to save you. You've got to be your biggest cheerleader. You've got to be the person who picks themselves up. How do I learn? What I don't have, how do I get? Who can be my ally? Who am I going to recruit as my formal informal coach buddy? And we live in a world where information is truly available at the fingertips. I do a lot of back and forth conversation even with Gemini when I want to rehearse for certain speeches. I feel like there's never been this kind of information, ease of being able to prepare yourself. That's almost table stakes, how you answer and how you come across. But resilience is something that you have to assess when you recruit folks, and a lot of it is rooted in how they talk about their past experiences, how they talk about their success, and how they talk about their failures. A, we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. B, let's face it, there is such an important role that being in the right place, right time, having the right people to back you, and
Yeah.
luck, just luck, plays such a big role that if you are going to come across in an interview and take 100% credit for some success of a project that you led or whatever, that's going to sound insincere. It's going to also sound like you're not completely self aware. And funnily, people leave little nuggets even in the most structured, most practiced answers. So I remember this excellent candidate that I was interviewing, very much a fit in terms of the skill sets we were looking for. I think this gentleman could have hit the ground running from day one, was very, very good and adept at their job. But one theme that I kept trying to extract, and I went about it in different ways, is I got this sense that this person is extremely averse to conflict. And he was describing something that he was doing in his current job where he suddenly got too much work with very tight deadlines. Basically, then he worked through the weekend, he worked through late nights through the weekend in order to get the job done, when he could have actually pushed back on one or two pieces. But the idea of being able to push back to a particular person, he was so averse to it that he burnt the candle at both ends. Have to be able to set those boundaries, even to do a really good job of the job that you are given. You need a break, and you need to
Yeah.
plan in it in a certain way. And once or twice these things happen, that there's an exigency, we all
Yeah.
kind of show up for it. But if it becomes a habit, then there is a problem, and
Yeah.
you need to let the other person know. And so then I asked him a different question. I gave him hypothetical questions, saying, this is the situation you'll find yourself in. And
Mm-hmm.
he was just not okay saying no or pushing back. And then, because I thought maybe I'm overthinking it and I have a bias, I requested another team member of mine, a much younger team member, of, just have a coffee chat with this person, and either tell me that I am overthinking it, assess whether this person will be able to push back and stand their ground. And this person pretty much echoed what my sense was. And he said, the guy is great at his functional work, but he will get completely walked over in this sort of a situation. And therefore, to your point of what do I look for, resilience is one, but courage is equally important. The courage to be able to stand your
Yeah.
ground, To be able
Yeah.
to say no, to call a spade is one that value I cherish.
There are so many things that you said that I wanted to talk to you about. And I love that you spoke about luck. I think a lot of artists speak about luck. I haven't necessarily heard corporate folks talk about luck.
Of
And
course, because
yeah,
we
like,
are all self-made. I mean, come on.
and I, for one, definitely believe in the idea that you were at the right place at the right time, and there was somebody who chose to take an interest in you, and that's why you've done whatever you've done. I mean, not taking away from all the hard work that one puts in, but there's definitely a role of luck. But there's also this thing that I've been reading about, which is how do you increase the surface area of your luck? Because you have to do something so that people can come help you. So, what would your advice be?
See, you've got to put yourself in a position, firstly, to be able to get lucky more often. So, absolutely well put that you have to increase the surface area, and multiple ways to do that. One is starts with intention. What do I want to achieve? Where do I want to go? And therefore, who are the people that should know about my work, that I should be talking
Hmm.
to, even outside? And I know that the word networking is extremely abused, but it's important to
Yeah.
have people in spheres of influence know about your work, care about your work, for them to notice you, etc. So, what are the biggest obstacles that are in the way? How do you? What is your game plan on either solving for those obstacles or just? But a few other things that I feel help is knowing your context and your environment. So, how well are you consuming news? How well are you aware of changes in policies, changes in macroeconomics? Geopolitical tensions are a big part of how business decisions are being taken today, and what plan Bs and fail safes are being built today. How much clued into the pop culture? How well aware are you of shifting role of generations and their attitudes, awareness, your ability to read a room, your ability
Yeah.
to strike up conversations. I met Harsha Bhogle in the airport lounge. I struck a conversation with him just to say you're a fan of how you speak. He and his wife were in a little bit of a hurry, so please, it's too much of a gentleman to have anything but a mild look of irritation about him. But the moment I told him what I do, which is I head sales for YouTube, and I think I don't know what gave me the courage to just say, you're not on YouTube. People love you so much. You should have your own content. And that conversation was such a productive conversation. His wife joined the conversation. She'd recently written a book, so I took a picture of it. I said I'd order it. I told him we'd keep in touch. We exchanged numbers, and the man launched his own channel a year later. We were in touch continuously, and I'd like to believe that I have a small role to play in that entire piece. And more importantly, I think this year, was it during IPL, that I was talking to folks in my apartment. I was talking to Harsha, and I said, we love your channel, and somebody was sharing it in our apartment group. Hope they'd love a message from you. And he recorded, he's so sweet. He was at breakfast, he recorded a small video message saying to Shubha's apartment folks and friends, hope you're enjoying this and all of that. And I sent it. I feel like a lot of it is about being very present, being here and now, not being afraid to make that conversation, being prepared for any situation. I'm not prepared with this, but one idea that I keep thinking of is, if I suddenly bump into a person who could influence my next big role, what's my elevator pitch that'll leave him or her interested enough to say, let's follow up on this, or
Yeah.
it's great talking to you. Let's By the way, I met another former senior colleague. He was part of the interview panel that hired me. He said, how are you engineering the small talk? I love that phrase, and of course he is an engineer, so I love that phrase even more. But how do you engineer the small talk to pique someone's
Yeah.
curiosity with the way things are on the internet? Is that very few people have depth on a particular topic. So
Yeah.
most of us are getting exposed to the same viral content on any platform. Very,
Hmm.
very few people will then say, oh, this is interesting, and go back and read five more articles about it, buy
Yeah.
a book and go deep into the subject matter, and
Yeah.
truly have some depth on that topic to be able to have a conversation. I
Hmm.
think that sets people apart, because anyone can do the first, but to do the
Yeah.
latter, you are making an
Yeah.
investment. Again, you're bringing
Yeah.
a lot of intentionality into what you're doing. And I keep saying this to my daughter as well. Of course, they told you that questions would come from here to here, and this is some sort of extra reading. But for a topic that you like, why don't you pick up the extra reading material and go through it? Because it's just for the just developing interest in an area. Another workshop that I had attended, they spoke about the importance of just going beyond even your subject matter to be able to have conversation. I think the example that the trainer gave us was of fly fishing, and they said that everyone knew that the visiting customer senior leadership member had was a very passionate at fly fishing, but one person had bothered to really go deep and watch documentaries and read up. But the conversation went a lot longer, and this person was able to create an impression on the visiting customer leader simply because he had taken the time to read up a
Yeah.
lot more than others had. So
Yeah.
what fly fishing conversations can you have with people? Like, what such topics, two three topics,
Yeah.
can you gather that you can have conversations with
Yeah.
people? I think that maximizes your chances of being, just be interesting, Ritu. I think at the end of the day, just be interesting. Read
Yeah.
up, show up to your own life, participate in things. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You ask five questions and people will be curious. Sometimes a simple question like why or why not is just enough to get people to open up.
I think you've already alluded to a lot of this in your conversation, but one thing that I keep thinking of is, given the way our lives are structured for our generation, a lot of the time is actually spent thinking about work, to the point that you end up conflating your identity with just work. And I think that can have some serious repercussions. What's your view on that? How do you think about it?
Realizing that work is a part of life is important. Realizing that you may have ambitions which are different from everybody's, and therefore having that self awareness is important as well. Also is the knowledge that the area of life where you plow in the most is usually where you get returns. I see this in the way that my father-in-law lives. He's in touch with, he's about to enter the eighth decade of his life, and he's in touch with some of his friends from school, from high school to college, to the people he worked with, to the recent friends he's made because he goes to a certain park. He'll be a part of their lives celebrations. The advantage is in his just his mental well-being, his, and this is again one of my former managers at the Aditya Birla group, Mr. Thomas Burgess, had said, know that if you are going to put a disproportionate amount of yourself into work, you are going to get accelerated promotion. Therefore then that the price to pay for that will be a certain amount of connection or lack of connection with your friends, with your family, etc., etc. And he said, I never prescribe anything to anyone, because I'm the kind of person who used to come in at before my boss came into work and leave before my boss leave after my boss left. That's a choice I made, and I was rewarded with an accelerated career journey. It is not for everyone. Whether you want to sign up for it or not sign up for it is 100% your choice, as long
Yeah.
as you make it consciously, knowing what the trade off is going to be.
Yeah.
And so one is that having that clarity and being very honest about it is what matters, and some people deliberately choose to pull back, which is absolutely
Mm-hmm.
fine. Let's assume you want to still manage a balanced life. You don't want to veer in the either extremes, and you still want
Yeah.
to hold on to a job that you will do, let's say a corporate job that you will do into in your 50s, possibly even in your early 60s. But you also do not want to make absolute hard turn or trade-offs with respect to your family time, etc.
Yeah.
Then you figure out what works for you. So when you're at work, be as much as possible, be 100% at work. Take time to recharge. Don't neglect your health. I'm one of the, I think, might be one of the very few managers who will remind my team about their annual health checkups. When I get mine done is when I remind all of them. I will also remind them about, taking care of themselves, staying hydrated, eating nutritional food. And to me, that is bringing your whole self to work, which is you acknowledge the
Mm-hmm.
human being behind the person who's coming up and showing up to their jobs. That's
Mm-hmm.
one. The second is, of course, and I credit my manager, Priya, for doing this as well. She's a marathon runner, and it's very important to her. So therefore that running, training, participating is important to her. So she also tells all of us that take time off to do things that give you a sense of purpose, that you enjoy doing, that are not work.
Yeah.
I think reinforcing that with conversations is important. So I when you leave for the day, you should say a big bye and leave. I'm in Bangalore, so I come into work at extremely odd hours and leave at extremely odd hours simply because I'm optimizing for traffic. I'm not guilty. I know how much work I'm putting in, and I leave when I have to leave. I leave. Sometimes it is 3 o'clock, 3:30 or whatever, but I'm also coming in early, and I'm okay. My work is getting done and I'm productive. So that's another one. So you role model some of what you're saying. And I think that because of the life stage that some of both me and some of my teammates are in, you will get that one odd call when an elderly parent is unwell and you have to drop everything and then you have to run home and take them to the
Yeah.
hospital, or you have a kid in school, or the kid is sick and you're either having to work from home or taken off. The way we try to build around that is we try to create a structure with a lot of tag teaming. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
one person who's a point of failure, or is a bottleneck
Mm.
when something happens. And I
Yeah.
think that it is important for businesses to be ready with these kind of contingency plans. And it's so I think
Mm-hmm.
those contingency plans, at least I build in very, very deliberately. So when I
Right.
hire also, I know that I hire somebody with a person who's going to have the same skill set in a next few years of experience. So it's constant succession planning and tag teaming for de-risking business.
Mm-hmm.
It takes the load off. We're able to tell stakeholders that, hey, so and so is out of action and therefore so and so will double up.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, of course, things there is a time when everything fails, which
Yeah.
is once in a while, and it's okay because we are in the
Yeah.
business of doing business with human beings. But
Yeah.
for the most part, we try to build these contingencies in.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I think you've spoken about bringing your whole self to work, and one angle which definitely I've heard a lot of women speak about is pregnancies or early motherhood. There's a lot of nervousness that I sense about, there's a ding in your career. How do you think about that? How do you help your teams think about that?
I feel very strongly about women in the workplace, and I feel that at a very, very visceral level. My mother's mother was a very young widow, and she had two kids, and she had to complete her education and then support the kids. And I'm talking about the 50s, so it was inordinately hard at that time. And then, she's no more, but she was recognized by the president with an award, and was able to start a school for girls, which is a thriving school. Even now, she was the founding principal. And then my mom joined the workforce, and there was an article in Dainik Jagran which spoke about the first woman in Varanasi to join the bank. So I feel very strongly about women working, women being independent, but also the perspectives that they bring that shape the business in the way that it does. I think it is critical. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
critical, and I know that this will sound very grandiose maybe, but it is important for the progress of the country for women to be coming to work. Now,
Yeah.
biology has it that only we can give birth, and therefore, yes, it slows you down. 100% it slows you down. You cannot, bring another human being into this world and not nurture that human being. And I'm all for equal responsibilities, but biology dictates that the child needs the mother for certain things for which no one else can sort of double up. um,
Yeah.
and it's a choice. Again, motherhood is also a choice. We still don't have the kind of support that we need to have women transition back to the
Mm.
workplace. I think you can make up for the 1 or 2 years, or it's career is a marathon. So sometimes we overthink that 1 or 2 years, somebody else
Yeah.
getting ahead, somebody else getting promoted, and we kind of hold that against ourselves, but it evens out in the long run. So that I don't worry about that too much. But I do think that the transition is painful, and we lose a lot of women in that transition. So there is a person in my team who, after she returned from her maternity break, and it was also a slightly complex pregnancy, so it was a longer maternity leave as well. But after she came back, almost 6 8 months or maybe a year after she came back, she wrestled with the idea of not being there enough with her child, and had a very open conversation saying, hey, I need to figure out how I can spend more time with my child, because there is commute, I have to come to office and leave from office, and by the time I get back, there's only so many hours that I get with him, and I'm still on calls, and I'm just I'm very guilty of not spending time, knowing fully well that these days these are very, very precious moments. The child
Mm-hmm.
will grow up, this moment will not come back. And
Right.
I'm okay leaving work. She
Mm-hmm.
brings so much to work and she's so good. So I told her, "Look, no, please thamba, don't leave work. Give me some time to figure things out, because the last thing I want is, this to impact
Yeah.
how you not coming to work is a that is something I can't, that's a non-negotiable for me. You have to be at
Yeah.
work. Then I
Yeah.
went back and I read the policies, and we do happen to have a policy where anyone can choose to take 80% compensation and work 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week. And I told my manager I'm willing to go to war for this and get whichever VP's approval is required. I asked her if she was okay with this arrangement, and she was more than happy because she needed a day extra to get a
Mm.
lot of other things sorted. It's a nuclear
Mm.
family, so you have other
Mm.
household chores, etc.
Yeah, of course.
And that one additional day would mean a lot to her. And so she chose to be in office Tuesday through Friday. Monday she wasn't there. We redistributed her responsibilities commensurate to the time that she had, and she's still at work. Her son now goes to preschool. She's very much present, very much thriving, doing a whole bunch of very complex projects. And it's all that it took was, you know the willingness to explore alternative options to make
Yeah.
something happen. It isn't rocket science. Matlab, some people might think of it as additional time that I have to spend and may not be very eager to explore options because it seems like work. Not necessarily just women managers, but even men. I've seen men be very supportive and go the long way
Mm-hmm.
as well. The more we are willing to just explore those opportunities, that
Yeah.
delicate transition time can be very well managed. It's a
Yeah.
matter of will. I remember having this conversation where this lady, I forget her name, she heads the UK public health system. She basically said 43 is a magical number. And 43 is a magical number because it is at that age where, for a lot of women who've had kids, the kids now don't need you as much,
Mm-hmm.
you are able to throw yourself into work. You're a lot more sorted, you're a lot more wiser, you're a lot more
Mm-hmm.
emotionally regulated, you're in a good
Yeah.
place. You can actually start to see some big gains starting to come from this age onwards. Made me so happy to hear her say that. The senior business leader that I work with, who I think she just dispenses wisdom in the corridors as I talk to her. Something I was talking to her about, being on boards of companies and how much time it takes. And she's on the board of three different companies. And she said, "How old is your child?" I said, "She's 11." "Listen, she doesn't need you till she hits high school and you kind of have to get involved in her academics, etc. This is the time that you work. This is the time that you hustle. This is the time that you put your time to good use. You have to do something on the weekends, and you will be able to make time." So I think what is also required is this whole, somebody slightly older, somebody who's ahead in the journey, particularly for women, to come back and
Mm-hmm.
inspire you like this, and to be very honest, give you that kick in the backside saying, don't make excuses. The one
Yeah.
thing though that I feel not all women have access to is the support system that you need.
Yeah.
That puts a lot of women out of the workforce, which is
Yeah.
extremely unfortunate. And again, to your point about how lucky you are, etc., this is where I feel luck plays a big role, because I stay with my
Yeah.
in-laws, I have my parents in town, I have somebody who and my husband is also a very hands-on parent. Not
Mm-hmm.
everybody has access to all of this, and I think
Yeah.
this is what makes a difference between a thriving career to women not being in the workforce or
Yeah.
not having careers.
No, this has been so great, Shubha. Thanks so much. I would like to end with one last question, which is, if there's something that really surprised you in the last few months, something that really filled your cup, what's that been?
Paris trip is the first trip that I took with my daughter, who's now 12. And it's not like we haven't been to Paris before, because, as you said, my sister lives there. My sister and my brother in law live there. That was full of surprises because I realized what a fantastic travel companion my 12-year-old is. And to be able to see the world through her eyes, again, it sounds cliched, but when it happens to you, it is not, it's an experience, was phenomenal. So she, of course, she had a bunch of things, and I want to see the Eiffel Tower, I want to see the Mona Lisa. And she's learning how to paint and draw for a while now, so there is an interest in art. And I think that looking at the same painting, visiting the same places, but looking at it, like looking at a part of the painting that you had not even registered because your child is making an observation about it. And I am absolutely looking forward to doing more of these trips with her, because, and she's such a good traveler. We had like a 25-hour delay in our return leg, and long hours spent in transit. I think maybe there was this one time when she was extremely hangry, when she kind of had a little bit of a tear filled episode. But for the most part, she was an absolute trooper. We were lugging bags, and I'm trying to protect her from, I know she's tired and her legs are hurting and all of that. And then she says, "Mama, but you're tired too." And then she pulls this suitcase or something she pulled from my hand, and she said, "It's okay." And I think that that moment was felt special, because you're so used to taking care of your children, and then you don't expect them to suddenly start to take care of you. So it was a very warm fuzzy, I must be doing something right sort of a thing. For the most part, I'm very, very grateful for everything in the last few years and this year as well.
This has been so lovely.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in. I look forward to your comments and feedback. Before you go, can I ask for a favor? If you like the show, would you consider subscribing? It's an easy way to support us, and we promise to keep doing what we're doing and try and do even better. Thank you.